Hi Charlie, how are you? How's it going?
I'm cool. How's it going?
Not bad. Just I'm managing to carry on going to the studio since it's lockdown too. I've managed to wangle it so I can just drive to and from home to the studio and back without seeing anybody. So yeah, I'm just keeping going. How about you?
Essential business. Well, yeah, I'm kind of lucky that it's at home, my setup. So yeah, there's not far to go, but it's more just a case of rarely leaving the house now. Just gets a bit sort of claustrophobic, but
yeah, I mean, I know we've talked a lot over lockdown anyway, but have you how's it been?
I mean, like I said, relatively not bad in that sense, because it's kind of just like having a bunch of weeks with no gigs and you're just stuck in the studio, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for me, but I think it's all the other stuff that goes with it, the sort of financial side, and just the whole everything's turned up on its head basically.
Have you found it hard in any way to write music during this period?
Yes, it kind of goes in waves, but there's definitely a kind of somewhat of a lack of, like, kind of not so much inspiration, but it'll be like you're like, oh, I can't play these tunes out, I can't really send them to DJs, or if I do, no one can play them. The sort of what's the point sort of vibe.
Yeah, it's difficult because you're trying to find purpose in what you're doing on a day to day, and for us, I didn't realise quite how important like the club bit is until you don't have it, and then you're like, fuck.
But like a few people that I've spoken to in general, and even this week, there's that element of maybe that's a good thing, because you're actually writing music for other reasons than just playing them to smash it on Friday night kind of thing.
I've been writing loads of stuff that I don't think anybody will play. It's just loads of drum edits and
right.
Yeah, so.
But I'm trying to embrace that side of it now more, of like, actually, what can I do that's just interesting music that isn't it's easier for non-D&B stuff that I've done, because that's not clubby anyway, but for drum and bass now, maybe there's that chance of just exploring stuff more and just not worrying about is it a club tune, or will it smash it, which is kind of a good thing, really.
I think it's good from a creative standpoint, because people can't just rely on it being a banger anymore. It has to have that like detail and sort of depth to it.
Totally. So you just got to make the best of the situation, really.
So I can't remember the timeline really, but I can't remember I remember you started this remix for me before coronavirus was even a thing, before we'd even ever spoken about it.
I think, was it even last year? Was it the end of last year?
Yeah, potentially. I know we went round and round with it a couple of times, but nothing major. I think like the DNA was there from the beginning. But again, that's kind of that's a funny one, because it started when you could play stuff in clubs, and it was probably finished when you couldn't play stuff in clubs. So
looking at the folder now, it looks like it was January this year was when I started it.
Right.
Yeah. So
a couple of months before. I guess that's funny. That's quite interesting actually, that it was started when you could play stuff in clubs and finished. Had your mindset already adapted by the point you were finishing, or were you just trying to get it over the line? Can you even remember?
I think it was just it was what it was. I mean, as we'll talk about, we kind of had done a couple of different versions anyway, and I think it was we played it out, and it was working in clubs anyway, and that was I think that's the route I'd gone down, so it was just sort of seeing it through.
Yeah, made sense. I know you've done a lot of remixes, and this is actually quite a difficult conversation to have, because I know how you work, like, because I've worked with you so many times. But like, how do you approach? I get the sense that when you're not collaborating, like I probably don't see all of your process, like the depths of it, but you maybe work a bit differently if you're working on your own. I mean, most people do, but like, how do you tend to approach remixes anyway?
I mean, generally what I do, if you get the choice of do you want to do it or not, I mean, generally do get the choice, or there might be a choice of which track do you want to do. Someone might say, I've got these tunes, and it's so from that point it's just obviously listening to the original, seeing what's in there, and kind of finding the things that are like the best bits for me that jump out, and thinking, Okay, yeah, I really like that sound, or yeah, I like that bass line, or yeah, the vocals wicked, I could do this with it. So it's just trying to find the things that jump out to me as like the key features.
Yeah.
And that's why generally I'd find it hard to remix a track that's really minimal, not really much happens, or there's not many distinctive kind of things in it. Those kind of remixes are harder because it's just like, well, what have I really got to work with? It might end up just literally being a new tune with a couple of little sounds in. So obviously that's why this one was appealing, because it was you got SP on the vocals for one, and then another thing that kind of came into mind with this one was that, you know, your original had quite a unique step and groove to it, and in a way that kind of makes a remix a bit easier, because you think, okay, he's done that step, I'll do something different, and then it's instantly just noticeable as a remix. Whereas if it's an Amen tune and you just stick another Amen in, or it's a two-step tune and you do the same two-step beat, it's kind of you know, it's a bit less noticeable.
I think remixing within drum and bass is quite difficult anyway, which is why with this remix package anyway, is I picked the weirder tunes to get people to remix, because I knew that it would be an easier transition to take the DNA from the original and then flip it into their thing.
Totally.
And so that's why I, you know, gave the remixes to the people I gave them to, specifically because, like with Tim Reaper, for example, he just was I knew he would switch the track I gave him, which was very traditional drum and bass in the way that he did, to his style. And the same with you, I guess, where the original tune that I did was like very much a sort of not a front runner main track from the LP. It was just sort of a weirdly experimental, sort of simple track that Stu didn't actually record the vocal on that, to be fair. He recorded it on something else, and then I just didn't think it worked, so I moved it on something else. So yeah, it was. I think that is the key with all remixes, and I think you're like one of the people that does that really well. I think because, or you obviously do it really well because you get asked to do loads of them, but you take that DNA and then make it yours, and I think that's one of the successes with this one. Yeah,
you kind of look at it just what would I do with this, or and sometimes, like you said, sometimes it might be a similar. You actually might keep it relatively similar to the original, but just put your spin on it, or you might just totally reimagine it.
Or you could take sort of 10, 12 years to finish it, like you did with the Hard Noise remix.
Yeah.
I remember you playing that to me and Dave, literally in like. When you were in that studio that was like everything was just in the corner and it was a massive room, like huge room, like even,
right.
Do you remember that studio you had? And it was like
that was in one of the those studio buildings in Bristol.
I remember being like, this is done, like what's going, like this is finished.
I know. So I did that one. Was obviously a tough one because I did lots of different versions, tried to sort of out Dillinger, which isn't possible, and then realised I need to just kind of, and it was trying to make it too loud or distorted more, and what I said to a lot of people really with that, on that tune, with that bass sound, you just can't actually do much to make it. Is just like the best bass sound I've ever sort of had on my computer. So to some extent, you're like, there's not much you can do to that. It's just, you can ruin it. So, but I suppose to some extent with this tune as well, there was a bit of a different. There was a couple of versions, because I sent you one which was a bit more. I don't know what you'd say, like almost like a bit more computery.
It was more chuggy and on the groove, and that was, I think that's where you nailed it. On the revision is where the beat stayed quite tight and marching, and the bass became more what I consider to be like pure break bass, where it's like moving in a modulated way that's not fixed to the grid. I actually remember we did a tune with you years and years and years ago. It never came out, and I remember we were making a bass in the EXS sampler that we'd put a sample into, and that was when I learned about not having the LFO set to a syncopated rate. So you had it, you were like, no, we'd never put it on that. And I remember you being like, really, like, nah, don't put it on that, have it like this, and then like setting it to an actual frequency, and then being like, listen to how better that's, like how much you can tune that to be lazy or to be ahead of the groove. That's how I always think of your groove with the bass, is that you've done it in that way somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I never used the kind of quarter note or 16, whatever 16, those little 8D or triplet modes, and occasionally I would, but yeah, honestly, for probably years, I didn't even know that knob went the other way, and you got those things. So I'd always just turned it clockwise and got that groove. And there was a rough set of numbers that were basically, it's something about like 3.5 hertz, I think it is, or 3.5 kilohertz. That's basically the kind of that sort of, which is basically like an 8D sort of groove, but it's just slightly lazy. And obviously that first version I sent you was just a very kind of I think that was like that's just I think a straight eighth note kind of serum, which was a bit kind of sort of not trancey, but it was a bit sort of kind of not even jump up, but it was just sort of it was a bit more like computery than I'd normally do, and it kind of worked because I think there was a couple of tunes I was playing that had similar kind of vibes like that, and I do like things like that in a club that just sound quite, kind of computery and sort of chunky. But I think it was worth changing because, like you said, it wasn't sort of like the classic way I do things.
Well, it's come out really good. I'm really pleased with it.
Wicked.
Yeah, it's good to. I was really pleased to work on the remix project that you did, and it's really good to have you on this one. So.
No, likewise, and obviously your remix is sick, and it's gone down really well, so it was a good swap.
Yeah, wicked. Thank you. I'm really proud of it.
And I guess one of the only other things that's obvious that people will probably clock was just like moving the vocal.
Oh yeah, of course. Forgot about that.
And that was something that it's similar. It's kind of almost like exactly the same thing Skeptical did with the Balaclava remix, because you get that thing where when you first do it, you're like, oh, it sounds weird because you're used to the original, and then after however long you listen to that, you go back to the original and you're like, oh, that sounds all weird. I'm used to the new placement. So that was, but for some reason for me, when I heard it, I was like, oh, it sounds like it should be nudged to the right, basically. So that's one of the things I did early on, was just get that vocal in a different spot, but obviously you had a different drum groove as well.
For sure. I remember it freaking me out when I first heard it, but then actually now it feels totally natural, and it would probably feel unnatural if I went back and listened to the original, which I haven't for ages. So it's one of those things, isn't it? And I get it with all sorts of stuff, really. If you're doing a collaboration with someone and you leave the project with them and then you come back to it later and they've shifted everything off and your memory of it's different, it kind of throws you for a bit. And then you have to like detach to be able to take it seriously or like see it in that new light, sort of thing.
Totally.
All right, cool. Well, good to catch up and good to chat, and good to give
likewise.
some insight into the tune. I know you're not very keen on doing these sort of things, so I'm glad I managed to twist your arm to. I don't know.
No, I'm happy to when it's music related and it's
or if it's like gear related, because
that's it.
If this was like an unfettered conversation, or if it was one of our normal conversations, I think we struggle to get off the phone if it's less than an hour or so. Just chatting away. So, all right. Well, good to catch up and speak to you soon, and I hope everything's well with you. And
wicked. Yeah, likewise, and good luck with the release, and thanks for everyone supporting it.
Nice one. Thanks, mate. Good to catch up.
Nice one.
See you, mate.
See ya.